Central Oregon Community College, providing our community with credit classes toward degrees and jobs, support for the arts, continuing education and business development to help businesses and employees, short-term training to upgrade job skills, community learning for personal enrichment, and skilled employees for business and industry.
Find yourself at Central Oregon Community College.
Standing 3,000 meters above the surrounding forest of Northern California with a coat of white glaciers, Mount Shasta lies at the southern tip of the Cascade Mountain Range. In his 1874 book, Life Amongst the Modex, Joaquin Miller wrote, "You would hardly call Mount Shasta a part of the Sierras. You would say rather that it is the great white tower of some ancient and eternal wall, with here and there the white walls overthrown." Mount Shasta's majestic shape owes its origins to the fact that it is not just another Cascade stratovolcano, but actually a cluster of 4 stratocones. With an elevation of 4,317 meters, or 14,179 feet, Mount Shasta is the second highest peak in the Cascades after Mount Rainier, and the 5th highest peak in California. Getting to the trailhead requires driving on 20 miles of rough 4-wheel drive roads. It's best to use a truck with high clearance to get there along the rocky road. We started our hike from the Brewer Creek trailhead. There was only one other car in the parking lot on this day, compared to over 100 vehicles parked on the more popular western side of the mountain. An easy and picturesque trail brought us under the canopy of the forest. The trail winds between giant trees where sunlight barely penetrates the ground through the branches. The understory of the forest is covered with Arctostaphylos nevadensis, commonly known as pine mat manzanita. This half-meter tall carpet of manzanita covers the ground around the trail. Because of the late summer, the bushes are heavily covered by little pink flowers in August. Easily recognized by the crocodile skin-like texture of its bark, Pinus monticula, or the western white pine, raises its crown above all other trees in the vicinity. Another amazing tree on our way is Abies magnifica, a subspecies known as red fir that is found on the slopes of Mount Shasta. It is a high elevation tree, though only rarely reaching timberline. The upper portions of the mountain are contained within the wilderness area, which was established by the 1984 California Wilderness Act. It currently encompasses 38,200 acres. The preserve is one of the 6 protected wild regions in the California Cascades. Mount Shasta rises more than 2,000 meters above the timberline. Consequently, This is among the most barren wilderness areas in Northern California. The luscious forests within the boundary are found on the northeast and southeast slopes of the mountain. The high country is dominated by glaciers, tundra, and massive scree fields, while the lower flanks are punctuated by small meadows full of wildflowers. The floor of the valley is covered by a carpet of Phlox diffusa, or spreading phlox. This species varies considerably in color saturation, but like many species, saturation is greatest when petals first emerge from buds before the sunshine bleaches them out. Viola purpurea, known as goosefoot violet, slowly invades the barren rocky surfaces of the glacial moraines. In 1888, John Muir wrote in his book Picturesque California, "The Shasta region is still a fresh, unspoiled wilderness, accessible and available for travelers of every kind and degree." Muir advocated creating a national park around Mount Shasta, and although it never became a national park, travelers can still enjoy pristine meadows of flowers, clean snow, and fresh water hiking around the mountain due to his efforts.
The lava almost flows off of Shasta, just coming out too.
Penstemon speciosus, referred to as showy penstemon, hides between the rocks just beneath the glaciers of Mount Shasta. This gorgeous flower survives in the low temperatures and strong winds which occur here even during the warmest time of the year. In the extreme environment at this elevation, even Pinus albicollis, the ancient white-bark pine tree, can only reach heights a few centimeters above the ground. Brilliant colored lichens cover the rocks in this harsh, high-elevation environment. Lichens are considered pioneer species that move in first and begin chemically breaking down the rock into soils that facilitate the colonization of plants later on. As the day moves into evening, giant cumulus nimbus clouds start building around the mountain, with the accompanying threat of thunderstorms, a potentially fatal risk for high-elevation campers. We stayed alert, looking around for a rocky shelter in case the weather continued to deteriorate. As the evening progressed into twilight, we were treated to a sunset of unforgettable colors. As the sun set in the west, it hid behind a ridge as the last beams of sun illuminated the clouds above Shasta with amazing pink, red, purple, and golden colors. We stood frozen, staring at the beautiful sunset colors until darkness enveloped the entire mountain. The first shining shafts of sunlight greet us in the morning, penetrating the air heavily contaminated by late summer forest fires. Morning alpenglow envelops the mountain, igniting the glaciers in fiery colors.
Did you check it from morning? Are there new holes in the helmet or still?
No mice, not any new holes.
Good. Well, quite a few of them in. Okay, I have enough protection.
We have less air blocking sun up here.
Yeah, and actually I have a nice mirror before me. I can see my face even kind of. Yeah, nice use of the camcorder.
After short preparations, a bite to eat, and last-minute equipment checks, we are finally ready to climb. The sun is already high in the sky, with ultraviolet rays capable of burning any exposed skin. After the warmth of the previous day, the snow is still icy from the cold night. It takes a while for our bodies to adapt to the fast pace at this elevation. Moving fast, we soon crossed the 3,000 meter mark. From here, we still need to gain another 1,500 meters, or about a mile of vertical ascent, crossing glaciers and climbing along the cliffs.
All right, Mount Shasta, heading up the Empire State Building 2 or 3 times.
The Hotlum Wintun Ridge is not so much a ridge as it is a prominent snowfield draping down the east side of Mount Shasta. As the name implies, the snowfield separates the Hotlum and Wintun glaciers.
One step at a time.
To our right, we enjoy the view of the Hotlum Glacier ice falls. That could be another interesting route to the top, yet it takes much more time finding a route through the maze of crevasses. Interestingly, while most of the world's mountain glaciers are receding, Mount Shasta's glaciers have actually grown in recent years. This growth appears to be the result of increased winter precipitation due to a warming Pacific Ocean.
Probably only a couple thousand feet to go up Shasta now. My feet. So I guess it's not really like Mount Shasta. Yeehaw.
As we reach the crux, or most difficult part of our route, the slope increases to 50 degrees, and our crampons barely keep us on the surface of the icy snow. This is no place for people with fear of heights. The last 100 meters before the top requires scrambling over rocks. The top is so near now that our minds wish to accelerate like a long-distance runner in sight of the finish line. In just a few more minutes, we'll be able to enjoy a view for hundreds of miles around from what seems like the top of the world. A quick glance at our watches indicates that it has only taken us 3 hours and 40 minutes from the time when we left our base camp. The actual summit of Mount Shasta is a dome of dacite that rose to fill the volcano's crater. Between 4,000 years ago and 200 years ago, sulfur vents and steam eruptions eventually blew out the central part of the summit dome. These craggy pinnacles, created in the heating and swelling, then freezing and thawing, are what now create the present-day summit. Near the summit, our noses detect the smell of rotten eggs as we enter a field of sulfur-encrusted fumaroles that remind us of the potential volcanic hazards. On some days, clouds of sulfuric gases envelop the trail in a potentially fatal fog, which at its worst can asphyxiate climbers as oxygen is displaced. Breathing even small amounts of these volcanic gases can permanently burn and scar our lung tissue as the gases mix with moisture inside our lungs and turn to acid. The soil around some of these fumaroles is hot enough to be felt through our heavy climbing boots. The temperature of the water here is above boiling. Overheated steam and water erupts from under the surface with whistling and roaring sounds. The easier west route is always crowded and brings groups of exhausted climbers to the summit one after another. During the summer weekends, the summit is occupied with climbers from sunrise to sunset.
Look at those guys with an viewfinder. Look like they climbed the Shasta.
Summit of Mount Shasta.
Summit of Mount Shasta, yeah. So this is summit, Mount Shasta, beautiful day. And sunny, easy hike, and very enjoyable.
August 6th.
Yeah.
Found a crystal.
I will see you in the CV next time.
You could say that the view from the top of Shasta is spectacular, but the reality is it's so spectacular it's simply breathtaking and beyond words. There are no other high mountains around, and a climber can see for hundreds of miles around the peak, north into Oregon and south into California. Far on the horizon, there are no other mountains to visit, other peaks to climb, or other wildernesses to experience for a long way. For now, we are here, on top of Mount Shasta, drinking in the view, soaking in the euphoria, and trying to catch our breaths during our moment of glory.
Along the Oregon coast, the Pacific Ocean ebbs and flows. Pulled by the gravitational dance between Earth and Moon, the waters draw away twice daily, leaving behind pools rich in unique marine life. However, at times the sea roars and crashes, battering the coastline and reminding us that beneath the sea lie the bones of vessels that have met their demise, dashed by the forces of water and rock. The temperamental seas and rugged coastlines of Oregon and Washington, known to some as the graveyard of the Pacific, have sunk thousands of vessels and claimed hundreds of lives. Thick fog, strong currents, heavy winds, and powerful storms all conspire to make this among the most dangerous waters in the world. To alleviate some of the danger, lighthouses have been constructed to shed light along the jagged coastline, both welcoming beacons and warnings of the perils at hand. Of the original 12 lights, 9 are still in use. North of Newport, Oregon, a narrow headland juts due west into the Pacific Ocean, known as the Yaquina Head Outstanding Natural Area. This area boasts a popular lighthouse and sheds light on a rich and highly accessible marine ecosystem. Built in 1872 and completed in 1873 by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Yaquina Head Light was first lit August 20th, 1873, and automated in 1966. It took approximately 1 year and over 370,000 bricks to construct Oregon's tallest lighthouse, which stretches up 93 feet or 28 meters. The lighthouse still uses its original 1868 French-made fixed Fresnel lens, which is visible 19 miles or 31 kilometers out to sea. The light has been in active use since headkeeper Fayette Crosby first climbed the 114 steps on August 20th, 1873, lighting the wicks in the lard oil made from pig fat. The oil-burning wicks, which originally burned from sunset to sunrise, have been replaced by a 1,000-watt globe, which currently runs 24 hours a day on commercial power. The light was fully automated on May 1, 1966, and the 2 keepers' dwellings, which had been boarded up and abandoned, were demolished in 1984. This lighthouse has been fraught with trouble from the very beginning. Construction work began in the fall of 1871, but was often delayed due to the temperamental Oregon winter. Boats bringing materials often had difficulty landing in a cove on the south side. At least 2 boats were overturned in the surf, losing all of their cargo. In October of 1920, lightning struck the tower. Keeper Wilson Auld was in the workroom below the lantern room as the tower shook. Lucky for Auld, he wasn't near the lantern room handrails, where the electric current burned off the paint. Yaquina Head Lighthouse has always been popular with visitors. Keeper Zenor reported at times having more than 600 visitors a day. In 1938, with close to 12,000 visitors, it was the 4th most visited lighthouse in the United States. After retirement, following 26 years of service, Zenor was ironically known to have said he could never understand people's fascination with lighthouses. The area is still quite popular, receiving over 400,000 visitors per year. The headland is both hazard and home. Hazard to the ships that draw too close, and home to an amazing array of wildlife. Sea stacks of massive columnar basalt serve as roosting sites for seabirds. Colony Rock, Northwest of the Yaquina Head Lighthouse attracts thousands of seabirds each year, ranging from black oystercatchers to glaucous-winged gulls, and rhinoceros auklets to brown pelicans. Southwest of the lighthouse, Seal Rock is home to a year-round population of harbor seals. Formed of ancient lava flows, Yaquina Head's hard basalt cliffs and coves have endured the pounding ocean surf for centuries. Natural cobbles provide stability to the shoreline and are less prone to erosion than sandy beaches. Despite the rugged appearance of the rocky shoreline, the intricate networks of tide pools are actually very fragile habitat. Beyond the impacts of coastal development and pollution, some of these areas have been loved to death by visitors. Should you visit these remarkable places, please tread lightly and leave what you find in its natural habitat. As the lighthouse once again sheds light on the darkness, the moon above shines,